Hello everyone, this is Roshni Sri Abhirami, a legal intern with Lexis and Company. Today I'll be dealing with the marriages in Muslim law. So basically, marriages according to a Muslim law is not a sacrament but a civil contract. So and all the rights and the obligation it creates is immediately or not and are not dependent or any condition precedent, such as the payment of dower by the husband. So basically, when you look into marriages are very traditional culture and everything. In Muslim law, marriages are just a contract between two people, that I'll give you this, you give me this with a dower, you give a boy and I'll give you this, I'll give a girl. That's just a contract between two people. And the Rajasthan High Court, in the case of Abdul Qadir versus Salima, has made a very keen sound observation that unlike Hindu marriages, which are sacrament, according to Islamic law, a marriage is a permanent and an unconditional civil contract that is made between two people of opposite sexes. So you could ask, LGBTQ rights is not permitted in Islamic law, with opposite sexes, with a view to have a mutual enjoyment and procreation and legalization of children. So this is the main essence of the marriages under Muslim law. One of the essential features for the marriages is the meher, that is the dowry you give in a Muslim marriage. And although it is the obligation upon the husband, the wife is well within her rights to relinquish the said dower. So even though the husband gets to have the meher, the wife has a complete authority over the dower, and she has the extreme right to relinquish the dower any time she wants. Okay, so unlike the other cultures where every single property goes to the man himself and the woman has absolutely no right over the property that she gave to her husband before, Muslim law recognizes that the dower that a Muslim girl gives is totally upon the girl herself. So basically, since the concept of a contract is that on the basis of a marriage, is that the principle of a valid contract would be applicable to the relinquishment. Thus the relinquishment should be made voluntarily. When a wife is about to relinquish her property, it should be made by her own will and consent, and not by undue influence or anything. It should not be made with made by fraud or misrepresentation or undue influence or by mistake or anything. It has to be made completely and voluntarily. That is something the Muslim law speaks about marriages or dower under Islamic culture. So what is the capacity of marriage? Who can marry and at what age that can marry is the capacity of a marriage. Every Muslim of a sound mind who has attained puberty. So every Muslim man with his, who has attained puberty and is a sound mind can enter into the contract of marriage. As we all know that a contract cannot be entered by an insane person with an unsound mind and everything. So the guy has to be a sound mind and has to be attained puberty. A Mohammedan girl or a 15-year-old girl who has attained the age of puberty is competent to marry without the consent of her parents herself under the Muslim law. And the marriage under Islamic law is a civil contract. Hence it should attract every single incident of a contract as any if at all if it's stipulated in the Contract Act. Okay, so all the conditions provided under the Contract Act should be satisfied, since in Muslim law the marriage is just a contract and not any holy sacrament or anything, unlike other cultures. So in Muslim law both the parties have to satisfy certain rules and regulations that is provided under the law itself. So as per the provisions of Contract Act, under section 64 of the Contract Act will be applicable in this particular case of marriage, where the marriage has been rescinded unilaterally. Thus the provisions of 64 of the Contract Act is very clear in this behalf, and requires only that the person to return the benefits under the contracts are those opinions the contract was rescinded as provided under the case law Muhammad Usaf Abasabai Bidiwala versus Harbanu Munsar Athar. So in this particular case, the court has said that every provision that is provided under section 64 of the Contract Act has to be followed by getting married when there is a marriage between both the parties. So this has to be Very clear. And lunatics and minors, when you look into lunatics and minors, they are not when they have not attained the puberty, may be validly contracted in the marriage by their respective guardians. So even if you are a minor, you can enter into a marriage with the consent of your guardian, or by contracted by your guardians. So the marriage of a Mohammedan who is of sound mind and has attained puberty is void if this brought about without his consent. Unless you are a minor, someone else can give you a consent. If you are not a minor, the consent, without consent, if you get married, it means that particular marriage is void. So what are the essentials for this particular marriage under Muslim law? Is that the essential validity for the marriage under the Muslim law is the proposal. Basically, contract also requires proposal, acceptance and confirmation and everything. So basically, even in Muslim law, a proposal is very important, made on behalf of one of the parties, and an acceptance of the proposal on the behalf of the other parties in the presence of hearing of two male Muslim people or two female witnesses who must be Islamic people. Okay, when the particular people are not Islam, do not belong to the Islam culture, it means that the particular consent for the proposal is not valid. So the proposals and the acceptance made at other meetings do not constitute a valid marriage. Neither writing or any religious ceremony is essential. Just signing the contract is enough for a marriage, because Muslim marriage is itself a contract. So ceremony and all is not very important under Muslim law. As per the Shafi'i school, the consent of the marriage lies with the wife. So in the Shafi'i school of Muslim law, the wife has the complete authority to give her consent and not the husband. So basically, if you are a girl and if you are a Muslim, you have to give your consent and not the husband. The husband consent is not mandatory, and the wali only communicates the wish of the bride. In case of the Muhammad, there is a case law, that is Muhammad Ibrahim versus Ghulam Ahmad. It was held that it was to be a good law, because the girl has a complete authority over giving the consent for her marriage, and if the girl is not very happy, and if the father it's just given through undue influence and everything, the particular marriage is void, and the father's confirmation is also required, and thus this particular law is a very good law according to the case of Muhammad Ibrahim versus Ghulam Ahmad. Ghulam Ahmad. So according to me, even though Muslim marriages are highly criticized for the women not being given with high priority and everything, I think that in a particular way, with all these dower and all these consent and other areas, I think there are so many stuff that every religion has to adopt itself when a particular marriage has to happen. So with this I end my video. Thank you so much, and if you like the video, kindly like this video. Thank you so much.